Call Allah Yahweh by Hashem Yahweh Shai, by Hashem Kakadash. Double honors to the elders and apostles of Great Millstone who rule and teach well. To the Akim pushing his word on all the four corners of the globe, risking their lives in truth and sincerity, really now more than ever. To the Aquaf, the sisters that are tuning in, listening, and learning, and the confusion of faith brothers such as myself, to you I say Shalom. And this is Amos 8 and 11, 12. Behold, the days come, said the Lord Yahweh, power, that I will send a famine in the land, not a famine of bread, nor a thirst for water, but of hearing the words of the Lord Yahweh by Hashem Yahweh Shai. And they shall wander from sea to sea, and from north even to the east, and they shall run to and fro to seek the word of the Lord Yahweh by Hashem Yahweh Shai, and shall not find it. That's what that's what this article 13 and 11 in the EU is really all about. This is from CNN Business. Europe's controversial new copyright law is as clear as mud. That's the title. There's a Satan divide against Satan on this topic, man. You've seen divides, you know. Europe has approved new copyright laws that will change the internet. The problem is nobody knows exactly how. The European Parliament on Tuesday approved an overhaul of the bloc's copyright laws that make platforms like Google and YouTube responsible for infringements copyrighted by users. Right, so basically, like, they're gonna clamp down on, like, anyone using, like, you know, like a movie clip trailer in the video, or like a little bit of music in the video, like a copyrighted song. That's what this is. That's what they're saying this is about. But where it's really about, you know, here at Great Millstone, we bring out the truth, and the truth of this is, you know, it's just like they make it harder. This is like one of those things. If they're gonna implement this into YouTube's algorithm, any video anyone uses, from like gaming videos, but like, you know, especially the brothers who post like a clip from a movie trailer, like in the beginning of the video or something, to use as an example, you know, those videos will get automatically taken down, you know, if you know. So you know, things like that, they're making it that much harder, you know, and that's the famine of the word that, you know, we're talking about in Amos 8 and 11. UE lawmakers said their goal was to make the internet less of a wild west where musicians, publishers, and other content creators were not fairly compensated for the work that was shared online. Right, what I was just talking about. Let's see, blah, blah, blah. Many of the big tech companies targeted by the law says it's vague and badly written. They warn that they will be forced to over-police the internet and make sure they don't break new rules. Internet activists, blah, 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 academics. You get the gist of it, though. And this article is kind of... But this is a precursor to that mark of the beast. They're clamping down on the internet. And make everything like, you know, like, they won't make it less of a, they said, Wild West. So it's just like, there's going to be like tax laws and copyright laws and like all of this and all of that, you know. It's just like, you know, that's how Esau fucking does it. He does it through like legalese and all this, and like all this like bullshit legal terms and letters and shit. You know, and you know, this bastard ass English language, you know, that's really part of the change. Like anything like a bill or like a tax form and all that shit. That's why we call you the devil, man, because of this shit. I got a video, and I'm gonna let it play.
So, the beginning of the end is finally here. A dark day for internet freedom. It's now over, and Articles 11 and 13 have passed in the EU Parliament. The internet, as we know it, is about to die. Lobbyists have tried in vain for years to bring about draconian copyright reform with SOPA, PIPA, and ACTA, but the internet successfully stopped them at every turn. But the forces of evil are nothing if not persistent, and they kept trying until they eventually pushed through immensely destructive new laws that will undermine free speech, online creativity, alternative news media, and even make many internet memes impossible. This is very, very bad news. And we're in serious trouble here. Julia Reda posted the following on Twitter. Dark day for internet freedom. The European Parliament has rubber-stamped copyright reform, including Article 13 and Article 11. MEPs refused to even consider amendments. The result of the final vote: 348 in favour, 274 against. Years of campaigning to stop this has been for nothing. In the end, the EU got what it wanted: a means of controlling and censoring the web and the free passage of information, and no doubt, as a consequence, it also now has a means of scrubbing populist and nationalist movements from the internet. Corporate lobbyists in the mainstream media, as well as the film, television, music, and even video game industries, also got a big win today. Now, any content they own can be removed on their say-so, even if its usage in a particular work previously fell under fair use. I'm going to include an excerpt now from a previous video I made explaining just how destructive the EU copyright directive is going to be. The first thing to understand is that there are multiple vested interests involved here. I'll break them down to just three. Number one, commercial rights and IP copyright holders representing the film, television, and music industries. Number two, the mainstream news media corporations. And number three, the European Union. Number one, the film, television, and music industries have been unhappy with the internet since basically day one. They've utterly failed to clamp down on piracy. They can't stand the clips of their content, snippets of their music, and whole songs can be listened to on YouTube or employed in remix videos, fair use, transformative capacities for commentary, satire, and review. The people in those industries who are lobbying for the EU copyright directive will be granted complete control over every image, video, and song they own. Article 13 of the copyright directive will allow them to detect any material that belongs to them when it's uploaded to a social network and instantly monetize it or remove it. Fair use be damned, regardless as to whether your use of that material is in a non-commercial capacity or not. Content ID matching will be everywhere. As you might imagine, the spreading of memes that make use of a copyrighted image will be impossible. Number two, the mainstream media. Similarly to the movie, music, and television industries, the mainstream media wants more of the pie at the expense of the little guy. They'll also be able to benefit from Article 13, but Article 11 will be their biggest coup. Article 13 is the database filter, which requires all social networks to filter every bit of content uploaded to them and cross-reference it with material that belongs to commercial rights holders. Article 11 is the link tax. If you're a small blog or alternative media commentator with your own website and you link to a news story from a major publication that you've used as a source, you'll have to pay a fee for that, and you won't be able to include snippets of text from other major publications in a fair use capacity either. A license will have
and see, that's like the extent of this thing. You know, they don't want people sharing news articles. They want complete control over everything. Revelation 12 and 12. Therefore rejoice, ye heavens, and ye that dwell in them. Woe to the inhabitants of the earth and of the seal, and Salakia, and of the sea. For the devil is come down unto you, having great wrath, because he knoweth that he hath but a short time. And these bastards at the EU in that goddamn monolith building that trying to rebuild the Tower of Babel, they know they have a short time. There's Psalm 64 and 2. Hide me from the secret counsel of the wicked. They a secret counsel of the wicked. They want to stay hidden. They don't want to answer to nobody, because they know they have a short time. From the insurrection of the workers of iniquity. Who are the workers of iniquity? These bastards in that EU building. Esau, the so-called white man, they call themselves white. The red Hebrew Edomites, all the other nations that have conspired against Israel, pertaining to Psalms 83. Psalms 83 and 3. They have taken crafty counsel against thy people. Who are thy people? Thy children of Israel. They have taken crafty counsel against thy people. They say it's about this. They say it's about that. That's a fucking lie. And anyone that knows anything, even Satan knows that it's a fucking lie. This Edomite right here, he knows it's a fucking lie. Matthew 12 and 26, and if Satan cast out Satan, he is divided against himself. How shall then his kingdom stand? Mark 3 and 26. And if Satan rise up against himself and be divided, he cannot stand, but half an end. This is Luke 11 and 18. If Satan also be divided against himself, how shall his kingdom stand? Because you say that I cast out devils through Beelzebub. I'm going to let the video continue. There's a little bit more and then I'm going to cut it off.
To be agreed, and therefore only large companies will be able to pay for it. The mainstream media will therefore be able to save itself from its current death spiral by forcing other organizations to pay them in this way. As the mainstream media are heavily funded by large corporations, this will make small, up-and-coming, independent, alternative news media almost impossible. An attack on the hyperlink is obviously an attack on the very internet itself. All that will be left in news coverage will be the biased globalist corporate media and their propaganda. Sounds fun. Even individual social media users posting links to articles on Facebook, Twitter, or any similar social network won't be able to do that without Facebook and Twitter having to agree to pay these link taxes. It's possible these social networks will agree to these fees, but it's more than likely that they will simply choose to cease operations in the EU entirely because the costs will become prohibitively expensive. Even small social networks like BitChute, Gab, and Minds will be faced with the same fees. So this isn't a case of the free market will come to the rescue and come up with a solution. The free market will be utterly compromised and unable to properly function, so new solutions will be extremely difficult to develop. Social media tech startups will be unable to grow because the startup costs created by the upload filter and link tax will be exorbitant. Furthermore, another reason that YouTube, Facebook, and others will likely have to greatly compromise or terminate their services in the EU is not just the potentially massive link tax fees, but because the Article 13 upload filter itself is completely impractical. The idea that they would have to devise some kind of sophisticated machine learning system, bot, or algorithm that could trawl through an infinitely large database of material and accurately detect what was original content and what belonged to a movie or music studio is just ridiculous, and the dizzying complexity of implementing such a system would be phenomenal, to say nothing about the cost.
That's the excuse they're going to use to remove videos. That's why we call you the devil, Esau. That's why we call you the damn devil.
Finally, number 3, the European Union. This is the final beneficiary of the copyright directive, but for different reasons to the other two. The EU's justification is political. The EU itself is under threat. It no longer wishes for its citizens to be able to freely question its rulings, policies, and actions, and wishes to operate with complete autonomy. It's an anti-democratic, bureaucratic superstate that wishes to answer to no one and looks upon its citizens as a proletariat to be ruled and controlled. It knows that for the most part, the predominantly left-wing mainstream media is pro-EU. It's the mostly Eurosceptic alternative media it wishes to censor. For example, it no longer wishes for people to be able to question the migrant crisis, which it created, so it introduces hate speech regulation. The problem is that hate speech legislation is difficult to apply and information is very difficult to police. This is because too many people have the ability to not only access information and alternative sources, but to spread them far and wide across the web. Information is power, and the EU knows oppose it. The problem they face is that the hate speech argument is wearing thin. The union faces legitimate criticism that it cannot deal with. It needs another means to control the news media narrative and restrict what its citizens can say and see online. So the EU Copyright Directive will allow the EU to censor the internet by destroying it, and it will do so not under the guise of combating hate speech and what it considers to be fake news, but via the smokescreen of copyright reform. 5 million users who protested this directive with petitions as well as advice from...
This is Psalm 64 and 8. So they shall make their own tongue to fall upon themselves. All that see them shall flee away. As Satan and Satan's divided against Satan. Linking up back with Mark 3 and 26. And if Satan rise up against himself and be divided, he cannot stand, but have an end. Because this whole thing with the EU, everybody knows that it is transparent. That's the Most High pouring His Spirit out upon people. That people know that the EU is full of shit. And these so-called white people, are divided against themselves. Trying to explain all this shit in big words like this motherfucker right here.
Leading internet and technology experts, academics, and activists, they were all ignored. When the EU sets its mind on doing something, it doesn't care what the proletariat has to say about it. Even the staunchest pro-EU supporter is going to have a hard time justifying their love for the Union after this catastrophe.
Exactly. Going back, Psalms 83 and 3. They have taken crafty counsel against thy people. They are a crafty council. Crafty council. European Union. They're sitting in a recreation of the Tower of Babel. And the elder apostle brought out in a video a couple weeks ago. What's called, they call it a monolith. That ties into the New World Order. That ties into them wanting to unify all the nations when the Most High is dividing up the nations. Psalms 83 and 4. They have said, come and let us cut them off from being a nation, that the name of Israel may be no more in remembrance. In remembrance of who? The minds of the children of Israel. 83 and 5. For they have consented together with one consent. They are confederate against thee. The tabernacles of Edom, red Hebrew Edomites, so-called white man. The Ishmaelites, so-called Arabs. Moab, so-called Chinese. And the list goes on. And the Hungarians, Gebel, and Ammon, and Amalek. And Japanese and the fake-ass Jews. The Philistines with the inhabitant of Tyre. All these nations, every nation, has conspired against the nation of Israel. Psalms 83 and 17, I'm jumping down. Let them be confounded and troubled forever. Ye, let them be put to shame and perish, that men may know that thou, whose name alone is Yahweh Bahashem Yahushai, art the Most High over all the earth. Call hello Yahweh Bahashem Yahushai Bahashem Rakakadosh. Lord willing, this was an edifying video, and until next one, I say Shalom.